This is online yoga with via April 23rd, Thursday. Recording will be available by contacting me or by going to the link that I sent you.
Get everybody along the top. Do you know how to do that with this?
We're going to practice a breathing practice called square breathing. All it is you imagine a square, you inhale along one side of the square, hold at the corner, and then exhale, hold the next corner, and then inhale down the other side of the box, and hold, and then exhale. And repeat the box breathing or square breathing. You're just holding in between each inhale and each exhale. Hold for one or two or three counts. This is a very calming breath. And then go back to native breath, but notice the space around the breath. So you're focusing on the inhale or the exhale itself. Try to notice the space around the inhale and the exhale. And then go ahead and bring your arms behind your head, interlace your fingers. We're going to do vagus nerve reset, which is a basic exercise for resetting the vagus nerve into a state of relaxation and restoration. So you're not going to move anything. Your hands are there to keep your head from moving. And you're going to take your eyeballs, nothing else, and shift them to the right. Wait for a swallow, sigh, yawn, or gulp. Then return to center. Shift your eyeballs to the left. Your eyes can be closed or open. You're waiting for an involuntary response from the nervous system. But if you don't get it, just keep practicing, it'll come. Don't strain, don't strain when you shift your eyeballs. It's a gentle movement. Come back to center. Do this 2 more times without my cueing it. Last one. Stay where you are, finish up, and then we're going to stay in this position because it's the same position that we can use for head ramping. So in head ramping, you're going to press the occipital ridge into your interlaced fingers, or the cup that you created. Press the back of the base of the skull into the hands. Hold for a breath or two. Keep breathing, and then release. And ramp, so press. I also call this chin tuck with resistance, but I don't want you to focus on the chin tucking because you want to focus on the pressure or the pressing into the floor with your occipital ridge. And that actually in turn drops the chin and the nose. Do this a couple more times on your own. Head ramping. This move can help counteract text neck, rounded shoulders, forward head. It also releases the vagus nerve reset, plus this releases a lot of tension in the neck and shoulders. And then finish that and bring your hands, we're gonna do some hypopressives, some core and pelvic floor work that's also breath work. You'll notice because you're gonna be holding your breath in. That's at one point, and after you take 3 breaths. The shape you're gonna take is the supine bent knee shape that you're already in. The heels are going to be on the floor, the toes up toward the ceiling. Take your arms in front of your chest as if you're hugging a tree, and then flip your palms towards the ceiling and make it active. So the hands are pressing toward the ceiling or the sky, and you can pretend you're outdoors, and then the scapula is pressing into the floor. Take 3 breaths. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhalo, exhalo. Spanish. Hold your breath out, no breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go ahead and bring your arms down to the side and just relax for a minute. We'll go back up and do that. When you're holding your breath out, no breath, you should feel the rib cage spreading and the belly creating a little concavity, if that's a word. That happens because of the breath work. Go back up into the position. Remember to have your ankles dorsiflexed. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Hold your breath out. No breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 counts or as long as you can. Maybe you can only hold till 5 counts. But you'll build up with the, if you repeat that practice, you'll build up. Extend your legs. We're going to do another hypopressive. Cross your right ankle over your left ankle. Bring your hands up in front of you and stack them so the right ankle is on top, but the left hand is on top. Bend your ankle, bend your wrists. And it's not exactly that, Kathy. Let's see something. No. So there, it's more like that, only then flip them. Flip them upward. Yes, it's more like that. Stack your hands. It's a wrist movement and then bring them over your head. Straighten your elbows as much as you can. You can feel the wrists and you can feel the arm stretch. We're going to do the same breath work, hypopressive breath work. Inhale, then exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. No breath. Hold your breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch sides. So the left ankle is over the right. The hands are in the same position, except the top hand is the right hand. So you're stacking and then straighten your arms and bring them overhead. You should feel that in the wrists and the armpits, actually, in the chest. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. No breath. Hold the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's enough of that. I want to show you how you can use, this is just kind of almost a demonstration before we move into the sideline practice, but I want to show you how if you have a sponge ball, I hope you do. I want to show you how you can use the sponge ball for a chest opener. So put your sponge ball, or you could put a towel rolled up like a ball, squished like a ball if you want. Put your sponge ball in the middle of your upper back. So you might want to take we'll see about the washcloths. You still might need washcloths, but you're going to find a place. Okay, now and there, somewhere there, and I think you will need washcloths, Kathy, or otherwise you're going to hyperextend, or a brick. Make the brick flat so it's either thick or, yeah, I think that might be fine. Now you can bring your arms out in a T or 45-degree angle or a cactus, but try to feel the opening that's created by having this kind of shape with a sponge ball behind you. So I hope you all feel that. I want to try to make sure that you feel like you got your money's worth out of your sponge ball. So this is a really nice thing to do, to start to open the chest. What happens as we round our shoulders over and lose some of the good posture that we might have had, is that the chest gets very tight. And this is a way just to spend time here to open the chest. Just stay here and breathe. You could do any of your breathing practice here. Just watching native breath, but you could also do extended exhale breath, rib cage breathing, anything. In fact, why don't you make your fingers into claws, and we'll do that massage of the diaphragm. So make your fingers into little claws, and then take the claws and bring them underneath the bottom of your rib cage. Now this is going to feel different for everybody. You want to start it in the middle. You can either have both hands on one side of the rib cage, or one hand on one side, one hand on the other. And you're just poking and massaging the point where the diaphragm meets the rib cage. And that often is very sticky, and you can create a more expanded breath with this kind of attention to the fascia and the diaphragm that come together here at the rib cage, the bottom of the rib cage. And you're still on your sponge ball. Still opening up the chest. And if you want to, you can poke your fingers underneath and try to take a breath and see what happens on your inhale. Your fingers will pop back out. But as you exhale, the fingers will be allowed back in. Just take a couple breaths that way. And now, everybody turn to the side. We're going to do a sideline practice. I love this practice. You could do it in bed before you got out of bed, as long as you need something under your head, but maybe it even could be your pillow. So Kathy's lying on her side with her head on a thick brick. What she's trying to get is she's trying to get up high enough to create space for her bottom shoulder to stack directly on top of her top shoulder. So it's possible, see now if you take that away, you don't have that space. It's possible that some people might need more space than she's creating for herself by this width, and then you can tilt the brick, show them how you could tilt the brick on the higher side, and then you get more space there. Kathy doesn't probably need that, but that's the point, is to have that much to create some space. Otherwise, you won't be able to stack your shoulders. The hips are stacked, the knees are stacked, the ankles are stacked. We're going to start with scapula work. So the top hand goes out straight parallel to the floor. You're going to pull your scapula. This is all about the scapula, even though you think it's about the arm. So pull the scapula away from the spine, and then the arm comes forward. That's called protraction of the scapula, and then pull it back. So the scapula retracts and protracts. It comes away from the spine and then returns toward the spine. Try to make the movement about the scapula, not the arm, although the arm will follow, and not the torso. So try to keep everything else as quiet as you can. So you're isolating the scapular movement. Scapular protraction and retraction. One of the things that's good about this is a lot of people don't even know that they have a scapula because it's behind them. They know they have boobs, but they don't know they have a scapula. So this will have you be aware of the scapula and its movements. There are a lot of movements that it makes for you. Go ahead and stop that and then just take your arm. This is called lateral abduction and adduction. You're just going to take your arm up to the sky and then back out in front of you again. And this is more of an arm movement. There might be a little scapular movement, but this is more arm. And try to think of what the head of the arm bone is doing in the glenohumeral joint. Make it a movement. Make all of these movements about the head of the arm bone moving in the glenohumeral joint. and forward. This is also called sunset, sunrise. I call it lateral abduction, adduction. But that might be too much for some. And do it a couple more times. And the next time that you have your arm up towards the sky, make sure you put your opposite arm on the front of the head of the arm bone, because we're going to do internal, external rotation. So you're going to first move the arm bone forward, as far forward as you can get it. That's called internal rotation. And then you move the head of the arm bone as far back as you can get it. And that's called external rotation. And just back and forth you go. Go as far as you can, unless you don't overdo it. Sometimes we have overachievers to try to move more than the range of motion allows. So this range of motion might increase as you do it slowly with awareness and with attention to breath and movement, which is what I teach. Slow down, become aware of your breath and the movement. And so that is the end of 3. I teach in triplets because we learn better in triplets, in chunks of information. That was 3. The 3 were scapula, protraction, retraction, and then lateral abduction, adduction, and then internal internal and external rotation of the arm. The next one is a set of 3, also shoulder work. So you're going to start with your arm on your hip, your hand on your hip, and you're going to do an overhead arm movement. I call it technical snow angels. Well, it's half a snow angel. So the arm is straight on the hip, and the first thing you're going to do is externally rotate. Don't go anywhere yet. Externally rotate the arm as far back as you can go. So the palm goes back, 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 as far as you can go. And then slowly bring it up by the ear. Straight, keep the arm straight, bring it up by the ear. By the time you reach, Kathy, by the time you reach the top, your hand should be facing your ear. It faces forward when you come back down. So we have 2 different movements back and forth. So from the first one, externally rotate, the palm is up to, that's an internal rotation. So externally, that's it. Now, keep that position and bring your arm up, up, up by your ear. By the time you get there, Kathy, your palm should be facing the floor. Yeah, try again. So start at the hip. Palm facing and a big external rotation as far as you can go. Now keep that position and bring the arm up, 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 up. Do you see how by the time you reach your ear, facing the floor? Now from there, you're going to do a different movement. You're going to come up so that the palm faces not backwards, but just forward. These are 2 different degrees of external rotation. So the palm is facing forward, and then you're going to come back down to your hip. Forward, now come back down. Keep the palm forward, come down to the hip. So this is the movement. Starting here, she's going to externally rotate as far as she can. Now the palm is facing the ceiling, but come on up. You know, it faces a different direction as your arm moves. By the time it's by your ear, it's facing the floor. Now the palm is facing forward. And now the arm comes back down to the hip. Keep the palm facing forward. Do this a few more times, slowly. This is a great move of the arm bone. In the glenohumeral joint. And be sure that you keep your knees stacked so you're not involving the torso Try to keep this isolated in the shoulder, in the arm bone and glenohumeral joint. There you go. And then just come on back down to your hip and pause. And we're going to start a shoulder circle. So you can start it by moving behind you, Kathy. So the arm goes back and overhead and forward and returns to the hip. Now try to keep the movement in the glenohumeral joint. So don't keep the torso, keep your torso and your rib cage quiet if you can. Or if you can't, notice that you are moving that other body part, and then your awareness may help you quiet that movement. If you come too far behind you, you will feel an opening in the chest as you move your arm behind you, but you've really gone too far at that point because you've used your torso. So maybe that could be a gauge for you. If when your arm comes behind you, you feel a stretch across the front of your chest, you've gone too far. There should be no stretch there. And by the way, after class, you can there are a number of stretches, shoulder circles that involve that add that stretch, but I'm just not adding it right now. Trying to keep it simple and pure. Reverse your circle. What I love about shoulder circles is you do not have, nobody has to cue them. The arm will only go, if you make a circle, the arm will only go in a particular direction. It has to rotate, it has to change direction actually at the chromium process, but it does that without my saying change. In this sideline practice, we're going to do 6 movements for the shoulders, 3 for the legs and hips, and then we'll flip over and do it on the other side. We might do something in between. We'll see. Whenever you're ready, finish up the shoulder circles. Put your hand on your hip. Bend your elbow. Bring your forearm forward, parallel to the floor. We're going to do a corrective movement for the rotator cuff. It's to strengthen and stabilize the muscles around the scapula. So, and it's called flying pizza, although it's easier to recognize the flying pizza when you're seated or standing and doing this. So this is your position. Make sure that you keep your elbow tucked in, and then take your forearm back towards your torso. And then by the time you arrive there, the palm is facing towards your ear. And then come back down, palm faces floor. So you're just going, take it, that's right. Take it between those 2 points. So it's a rotation. You should feel this at the upper back, at the scapula. Feel the exercise, the results of this movement are mostly felt behind the shoulder. Do it a couple times more. And then stop. We'll go to those were the 3, the triplets the second set of shoulder triplets. Snow angels, shoulder circles, both direction, and flying pizza. Go ahead and extend your legs, both legs. Continue to stack the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the ankles. You can droop your toe. We're just going to do leg lifts, but you want to do them using the abductor and adductor, the muscles on the side of the leg. If you start to feel that you're using the hip flexors, you've gone too far. The hip flexors are in the crease between the leg and the pelvis. So that just tells you that you're going too far, because this is not a flexion. This is an abduction and an adduction. And just up you go, and then come on down. And if you want to add a little resistance, you can put your hand on your hip. Or add a little weight farther down your hip. Straighten your arm, Kathy. Now lift your leg. Yeah, right there. If I were you, in your home practice, 6 to 12 times. And then stop and do a flexion extension. So the leg comes forward, the top leg comes forward, and then it goes behind. And see if you can keep your pelvis and your torso from moving. It's just a leg movement. It's a movement of the head of the femur in the acetabulum, which is the little indent in the pelvis where the head of your femur sits. So that's the movement here. And you can add some footwork or ankle work by pointing, dorsiflexing forward and plantar flexing backwards. So forward and back. And keep the movement isolated in the hip if you can. You might have to make it smaller or slower. And if you want to, for the last couple, you can add a squeeze. So squeeze your glutes as you're extending your hip. Squeeze and then move. That's the second triplet in this hip series. And now stop this and bend your knees and stack them. And so we're going to do clams, which is also an abduction and adduction. So the ankles stay together, but the top knee moves away from the bottom knee. So there you go. Try to keep this a movement that's only in the top hip or femur. So the pelvis isn't moving, the torso isn't moving. And you can add your breath. You can inhale as you come up and exhale as you come down. Or it wouldn't be a crime if you did it the other way around, but just always attaching a breath to a move. This is a general rule. One more, and then we're going to add some resistance to the clam. So Kathy, move your knees a little closer to your face so that you can touch your knee with your hand, because you're going to create some resistance with your top hand. So the knee still goes up, but the hand resists the movement of the knee. Up and back. So this is Kihara resistance stretching. So the knee is moving up, but the hand is resisting the upward movement. And when the hand presses down, the knee is resisting that downward movement. So always moving and always resisting. And the upward movement is a strength movement. You might want to make it a little slower. And the downward movement of the knee is a stretch. So you should feel this. You might feel it a lot in the glutes. Yeah. A couple more. And pause or stop. So we've finished on one side, and you have a couple of alternatives depending. I mean, I'm kind of trying to walk you through it as if you were doing this at home. This is one of the things I like people to kind of memorize, almost memorize, because although the class notes will tell you also, you could check the class notes of the video, but memorize it because it's easy to do. If you like, I don't want to make a plan. I just want to do something that's helpful and healthy. And this is a kind of a whole body stretch, but in the middle, so that's the one side. We do the other side. That's great. But in the middle, you can also, like, we could do any number of things. You could lie on your back and do some leg lifts and knee bends, knee drops, etc. Or I'm going to do, because I always like to include it in class, I'm going to do the prones exercise, triplets. So lie on your belly, and remember, we still have the other side to do. And you could do this. You could do your extra work at the end as well, but you can do it in the middle. So the prone set that I like, or often like to include, is elbow propping. So you create a little hammock with your thoracic spine. The chest opens, and I want you to breathe here. This is a great movement, unless it bothers your lower back. Then if it bothers your lower back, you need to make it smaller. Or you can come out altogether. Make it smaller or slower. But otherwise, take some breaths here. And this is a great place to breathe, and you can breathe into your lungs, into the back of your lungs, which is less available to you when you're lying on your back breathing. So I like this movement for that. And then try to press away from the floor with your elbows. So you're lifting up a little bit more if you can, if it doesn't bother your back. Just a couple more breaths. Elbow propping, lotus. In yoga, I think the official name is lotus. Anyway, this is similar to that. Go ahead and lie on the floor with your arms out in a T. We're going to do a thoracic stretch. This is actually one of my favorites, but it's very small when you first start. But it opens up the upper back, which actually helps the lower back. Because often when the lower back is hurting, it's because the upper back is so tight, it doesn't do its job, and so the lower back has to take over. So this is one of the ways to create health in your lower back. So the rule is that you're lying on the floor, your arms are out in a T, and your arms and your armpits stay on the floor. You can look to the right or the left. You don't have to look, start down. So if you're going to look left, then you're going to start lifting, look left, your arms in a T, and lift the left leg and move it back over the right leg. It's a hover. It's hovering and moving and hovering over, and your hips will move. Hopefully your armpits stay on the floor. And just take a couple breaths here. If this bothers your lower back, make it smaller or slower. And then come on back. Other side, look to the other side. The other leg lifts a little and hover and moves backward over the opposite leg. The hips will move. The hips can move. but the upper back, the arms, the armpits stay quiet. And then come on back and do that 2 more times, 2 more sets on your own. And as you practice this, your ability to move your top leg over the bottom leg will increase. And you'll get a really nice twist, but you have to work up to that. Right? Breathing. And finish up. And pause. We're going to transition to a back extension, basic back extension, and then airplane. So bring your arms down by your hips, palms up. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift your arms, your chest, your head. And stay here and take a breath. Inhale, and then exhale, return to the floor. Next time we're going to add airplane arms. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift your chest, your head, your arms. Stay here and breathe. See if you can come up a little higher. Nice. Inhale, and then exhale, bring your arms out into a T. Stay here, breathe. See if you can come up a little higher. And then inhale, and then exhale, return everything to the floor. We're going to do that one more time. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift. See if you can come up a little higher. Take a breath. Inhale, and then exhale. Bring the arms out into a T. Stay here. See if you can come up a little higher, unless it bothers your lower back. And then inhale, and then exhale. Come all the way back. Come into a child's pose to stretch the lower back if it's comfortable for you, if it's a resting pose. If it's not, lie on your back and hug your knees to your chest and rock from side to side. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to flip to the other side and do the other sideline, the other half of the sideline practice. So if you flip to the other side of your mat, then you can still see the screen. Remember, your head is on a brick. Your shoulders are stacked. Your hips are stacked. Your knees are stacked, ankles are stacked. We're going to start with three shoulder movements. The first one is scapular protraction, retraction. So your arm is out in front of you, parallel to the floor, shoulder distance from the floor. And you're going to pull your scapula away from your spine, which is called protraction. And then you're going to retract it, pull it back towards the spine. And when you do that, the scapula moves, obviously, and then the arm moves also. The arm associated with the scapula. So protraction and then retraction. And make the movement a scapular movement. And see if you can keep the rib cage and the torso quiet. Back and forth. The movement is happening in the scapula. And you should feel that. Or could feel it. And pause or finish up, and then take your arm up towards the ceiling. This is called lateral abduction, adduction, or sunrise, sunset. You just want to bring it back down to parallel, and then up towards the sky. And this is mostly an arm movement, although there's a little bit of scapular movement. You want to keep everything quiet, except this arm moving through space. And think about where it's moving from. Hopefully it's moving from where the glenohumeral joint, where the arm bone sits in the glenohumeral joint. And maybe you'll notice that this is a chest opening movement. By the time you get your arm up toward the ceiling, there's an opening that's created in the chest. Bring your arm back up to the ceiling. We're going to do internal, external rotation. Put your bottom hand, the hand of your bottom on your bottom arm at the front of the arm bone. You're going to internally rotate. So the arm bone rotates forward. And then that's an internal rotation. And then you take it as far back as you can. That's an external rotation. And keep going, internally rotating and externally rotating. The trick is to make the movement happen at the glenohumeral joint, where the arm bone is sitting in the glenohumeral joint. Don't have this be a wrist movement or an elbow movement. So the elbow and the wrist may move as a result of the internal and external rotation of the arm bone, the head of the arm bone, but it doesn't initiate. So make that distinction as you move. Make sure the wrist, you can make a fist with your hand. It actually makes it easier to isolate, to get the wrist out of the picture, basically. If you spend your life using your wrist instead of the internal, external rotation of the arm for arm movements and at your computer, you're going to end up with a frozen shoulder, because the shoulder freezes because you're not moving it. Just a little threat. And finish up. Finish that up, and then those are the three. Those are the first three. So go ahead and bring your arm down to your hip. So we did the scapula, protraction, retraction, and then the arm, internal, lateral abduction, adduction, and then the internal and external rotation. Those were the three, the triplet. The next triplet is snow angels, shoulder circles, and flying pizzas. So the first thing is snow angels. Remember, you start with your hand on your hip, but then you rotate it all the way. You externally rotate it. So you're externally rotating the arm, and then once it's rotated as far as you can rotate it, then you bring it up towards your ear, along your side body, towards your ear. By the time you get there, it should be facing the floor, Kathy. By the time you get there. So come on back. Let's see if we can do that. So you've rotated, rotated, rotated. Can you rotate a little farther? Now from there, palm up. Hopefully that movement came from not the wrist, but the arm bone. And now that was perfect. When you get to the top, then you face your hand forward and bring it all the way back with the hand facing forward. It's another degree, a lesser degree actually, of external rotation. So you're doing two different external rotations, which is actually really good for an upward overhead arm movement. So with your breath and your movement, just aware of both, knowing that the slower and the more you slow down and move with awareness, the more your body is going to learn the lesson you're giving it, basically. You are training your body to move well so that you can avoid injury or even treat injury, restore your body to the movement it's supposed to be, was born to do. And come back down, bring your arm back down to your hip. We're gonna do shoulder circles. I love these. These are one of my favorites. And then just go ahead and bring your arm behind you. See how I don't have to cue Kathy. Her arm just does what the only thing it can do, really, basically. So try to keep this movement in the glenohumeral joint so the arm bone is circumducting, which is all of the movements, all of the possible directions of movement available in this arm bone joint are being undertaken here in this movement, in this circular movement. If you start to feel the chest stretch, you've gone too far. Make it a little smaller. One of the things I like about this series is the shoulder circle is available. It's a little harder to do when you're standing. I mean, you can do it, but this is actually my favorite way to circle the shoulder, the arm bone in the glenohumeral joint. So go ahead and reverse your circle. And then stop what you're doing and bring your bent elbow forward, tuck your elbow into your waist and keep it there. This is a movement of the forearm that actually works on the upper back or scapula. So the arm is forward, palm down, and then you move the arm back, forearm back, and then rotate it so that the arm is facing your ear, and then come on back down. So it's the forearm, and this is a wrist movement, actually. Keep it in a 90-degree angle, and then come back down. You should feel this along the upper back, along the scapula, on the same side as the arm. If you have a rotator cuff injury, or if you want to avoid a rotator cuff injury, this is a great move. If you have an injury, you may need to wait a little bit. If you have an acute injury, you may need to wait for it to settle down before you start strengthening and stabilizing the rotator cuff with this movement. Oh my gosh, we're going to run a little over. because we have to do the leg series. Go ahead and stop. And I will understand if you have to leave. I hope you can stay. I guess I overdid it. I over anticipated. Leg, hip series, straight legs, droopy toe, and then just up and down you go. And then come back and do a forward flexion and extension. And you can add ankle and footwork by dorsiflexing or toes toward the nose on the forward movement and then toes away on the backward movement. And you can also add, when you go back, you can squeeze your glute actually. So do this slowly. This is a movement of the head of the femur in the acetabulum, which is a little indent in the pelvis where the femur slides and glides. Think of what's happening at the joint when you do any of these movements. And this will help. First of all, it help improve your movement, and then it will also help you communicate with your brain about the movement. And then the last movement we're going to do is a clam. So you don't need to have your legs quite that high for the first version. Go ahead and the ankles stay connected and the knee goes up. Now, once again, this is an abduction and adduction using the side muscles in the thigh. If you find that you start feeling the hip flexor muscle, then you're going too far. The hip flexor muscles are in the crease between the thigh, between the leg and the pelvis. And just do that a couple times. Good for the knees. This is good for the knees. And then go ahead and bring your clam a little bit, clammy knees, a little bit closer to your face so that you can put your hand on your knee and add some resistance, Kihara resistance here. So the ankles stay connected and then you're creating resistance with the hand. So the hand presses down, the knee presses up. It's always that way. One is pressing on the other. And then one is winning, basically, if you want to put it that way. So when the hand wins, the knee goes down. The knee is still resisting the movement of the hand. Always moving, always resisting. The movement downward is a stretch for the quads and the glutes. You will feel this in the glutes. If you do it too much, you'll feel it too much in the glutes. You'll want to stop. So do it one more time and then stop. And find your way onto your back for the 61-point guided meditation. Remember, this is a time you need to be comfortable. If you're in a cold climate, you might want to put a blanket over your body. And you also might want to put a small washcloth over your head. Your legs can be straight or bent. Legs can be up on a chair. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to pay attention to different internal body parts that I mentioned, but not to move your body. So first, start to notice your breath. Breathing in and out and watching the abdomen move. And then bring your attention or your awareness to the center of your eyebrows, center of your throat, right shoulder, elbow, wrist, right thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, right wrist, elbow, shoulder, center of your throat, left shoulder, elbow, wrist, left thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, left wrist, elbow, shoulder, center of your throat, spiritual heart center, right side of your chest, heart center, left side of your chest, heart center, navel center, center of your pelvis, right hip, knee, ankle, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, right ankle, knee, hip, center of your pelvis, left hip, left knee, ankle, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, left ankle, knee, hip, center of your pelvis, navel center, heart center, center of your throat, center of your eyebrows. This completes your 61-point guided meditation. Go ahead and extend your legs if they're bent, and bring your arms overhead and start to stretch your body one side and then the other. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Create some space between your pelvis, more space between your pelvis and your rib cage. And hug your right knee to your chest, and then your left. And hug both knees to your chest. Rock from side to side. And then just roll all the way to the floor into a fetal position. Take your bottom arm, bend your elbow so that you can rest your head there. You don't want to come up right away. You need to give yourself a little time, otherwise you might get dizzy. And then whenever you're ready, take your top hand, press it into the floor, come up to seated. Find a floor seated position, or you can come into a chair. We're going to close the class. I'm going to unmute everybody, and I'm going to unpin and make you the spotlight video, so we'll see all of us, I think. Very nice. So find your position. I didn't have time to tell you about how I have, I think, speeded up the recovery of my lower back injury that I had. But I can tell you next time, or you can stay on after the recording if you want to hear about it this time, if you're in a hurry. Okay, bring your hands to your heart. Press your palms together. Nod your skull forward. And we'll close the class by saying to each other, Namaste. 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 Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you. Nice class. Hope to see you Saturday. I'm going to stop recording and